Hello. Today we are going to discuss legal, ethical, and social issues in the school system. Every day we face these different issues and us as teachers need to be aware. So the first legal issue we are going to talk about is fair use. And fair use is the balance of interests between copyright, the authors of the work, and the public, meaning each copyright piece needs to be cited properly so the owner gets correct ownership to the piece. And according to the United States Copyright Office, there's 4 factors of fair use, and this is how someone determines legally if it is fair of how the paper was copyrighted and used. So the first one is purpose and character of use, meaning how is the work being used? And this can be determined by how it's taught, critiqued, commented, and researched. The nature of the copyright work is number 2, meaning what and how much was copied. And the amount of substantially of the portion used in relation to the whole, meaning the quantity of the work, how much of it was used, and the quality of the work that was copied. Was it the United States Copyright Office said like the heart of the work? Was it the most important piece that was copied? Because if it was copied, then it would not be cited properly because it's stealing the owner's work. And the effect of the use upon the potential market. So is it going to impact the original copy? Is the piece that was copied getting more attention? Is it impacted more from the general public? That wouldn't be fair for the person that had the original idea. So the person that has the original idea needs to make sure that they get the right attention that they deserve, and the fair use supports them. Creative Commons is the next. Again, it's reserving the most basic rights in the legal framework. So this has 6 different licenses, and they go into very detail, but I found a website called Creative Commons that goes in and puts it basically in layman's terms of how the work can be used. And it explains it can be copied, distributed, edited, remixed, and built upon by the person that's using the work. And this goes for the copyright. So I'm going to show you the Creative Commons website, and their link is attached. And it talks about the 3 layers, the legal code, the human readable. The human readable is basically what it is in layman's terms, and then the machine readable. So here are the licenses, and this is on the other page, but this goes into more detail. So it also will explain the license deed, which is much harder to understand, and the legal code. I'll show you each. So this is the first one, telling you that you are free to share and adapt. And then it gives you exactly what would happen to give the appropriate credit, and it tells you your limits. So here's the first one, and it allows you to distribute, remix, tweak, and build upon the original work. And then it tells you who it's recommended for. So if you are trying to copyright work and use someone else's work, you would go through these licenses and decide which one works best for you. Attribution share alike is like Wikipedia. Attribution, no derivatives. It allows for redistribution, commercial and non-commercial. So it also is very specific on what kind it can be. And it says passed along unchanged in whole with credit to you. And then this one goes back to similar to the first one, and it can be non-commercial, and it's on the same terms also. And then attribution non-commercial share alike, this specifically says non-commercial, and it allows you to have the new creations under the identical terms. An attribution non-commercial is a remix of all the licenses, but you can't change them or use them commercially. So here's the website that you can go into further detail. And then practical tips for fair use in Creative Commons. Emphasizing how to cite sources. I think that this needs to be emphasized more starting in middle school when students start doing research projects. Even in elementary school, how to cite a book, how to cite a website properly. And then continued in high school and college. And it always needs to be reviewed. It is so important for everything to be cited properly. And I think that there's different cases of fair use. So when they actually went to trial, I think teachers should examine them with their students and determine which copyright cases deserve different consequences. And it's great to review the different consequences so the students understand what could happen. And then the licenses, as you could tell, are very in-depth. So I suggest your students to go into further detail to really understand what each license mean and make it authentic and relatable so that it's more interesting. Next, we're going to talk about ethical issues. And when I was going through and finding this research for everyone, I came across FERPA, Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, and I just wanted to review this. And this means that the guardians are still in control no matter what your student says, even if, especially when they're under 18, it's all up to the guardian. And then COPPA, Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, protects children under 12 from having personal information shared or stored. So this is really important. And I honestly did not know that this was an act, so I was really interested when I came across this and wanted to share it with you guys. And I found an article that I thought related to everyone, but it was specifically for school counselors, but it relates just as well to teachers. And it talks about the ethics. And the main point they separated into 3 points was relationships and boundaries. So basically knowing your boundaries. Our school systems are creating many social media accounts to connect better with the public, so students are following the pages. So teachers need to know their boundaries and not interfere with personal relations, create dual relationships, and pair their objectivity to their students. When you are on social media, you see way more than you should, and people often forget what everyone can see. So this also should be reviewed in a classroom, how much can be viewed on social media. And then student confidentiality and privacy. Remembering, not using students' names, not talking about students and situations that happen in your classroom in public. It's not appropriate. And just remember, with social media, we can view students' pages when they like our page, but not bringing that into the classroom. That is their own personal matter. Professionalism and responsibility. We need to remember this is our job. We are professionals. We cannot allow social media to interfere with our jobs. This is a huge one, digital divide. And this talks about how hardware, meaning the actual tools, connectivity, the lack of digital and literacy skills, and having the support is what creates a digital divide. And this one article states that computer literacy is related to social activity and school performance, and math and language skills, and finding jobs, and then relates with your hourly wages. It just shows that everything correlates. And then it relates back to where you live, what your background is. And then it also, I thought this was very interesting, talks about how where communities invest their money, investing in infrastructure. Is the school investing in technology? Not every school system has the same technology. And then human capital, understanding what their resources are, where they come from, how much knowledge and experiences they are being exposed to. And having their home environments, you have to remember and connect to every individual student. And I was thinking that this relates really well to how students interact with one another, the digital divide. If a student does not have anything to do and they're constantly reading books, they are imagining, creating. When a student is constantly on their iPhone at dinner, not creating conversations, it is not, I am not proving this, but it has shown that it possibly creates social issues. And then originally the article talks about how there's social divide with women, but then later it talks about that as we are increasing our use of technology, that it's not necessarily true. Here are some graphs to review. This came from the same source, Quora. And then tips to overcome the digital divide. Printing articles, having the students control your technology for you, and having computer stations. And then social issues. So I just kind of touched on that with communication. But it also states how much internet use is being used. 82% of Americans right now over the age of 18 are using the internet, and 67 use it daily. And even ages 12 to 13, 55% of our youth are using social media, which is unbelievable, because when I am thinking back to when I was 12 and 13, I still had no social media. It was not popular then. So then the acceptable use policy. And I looked specifically into Arizona, and then I was like, let me look into Worcester County, where we all teach. But I want to go over the Arizona because it's always interesting to look at different states and what they do differently and how we could possibly incorporate it into our. So it talks about the ownership of the internet, meaning use what they give us, our computers, and the resources they give us for business purposes only. Monitoring. They can inspect what we do. Having security and making sure we use secure passwords and log out when completed. So we don't want anything used against us. And then we need to be responsible and professional and keeping everything clean. And here is actually Ocean City Elementary's acceptable use policy that we have all of our pre-K to 5th grade sign. So you can review that as you've already seen it, but this is just a friendly reminder. And cyberbullying, this is so important. Cyberbullying is on the rise, and it really can affect students' self-esteem, create distress, create suicide ideas, have anger and frustration, which then lead to the student not learning properly, not wanting to attend class, being absent. And there's 2 articles in the Castle that studies that stated that 34%, almost 35%, say that they have been cyberbullied, and then 22% of another report say they have been cyberbullied. I think we need to reach out more to our parents and explain cyberbullying so that they can monitor their children. I also think we need to, I've seen this on Facebook where teachers post a picture and it shows how much is shared on the internet. So this just shows that we need to show how much social media is out there and that cannot be erased. And then I also wanted to just review our policies, and I think it's great to review it with your classroom. And that is right here. And you can click on it yourself. And then having them sign a bullying contract, I think that is great. So then, that is all. If you have any more questions, please go into my resources I've set down for you, the references. They are great websites that really go into great detail, but this is just a summary of them all. So thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it.